Welcome back to the channel, guys. So I got a question asked how to set up electronics or how to lay them out on a chassis. I guess that was the question. Trying to think about exactly what the person meant. But what I could do is pretty much show you how I lay my chassis or my electronics on my two of my three chassis that I have here, and then I can pretty much show you a rough estimate of how to set up the electronics, how to get forward, reverse, and back, right? So as you can see, how I would start most of my when I do my chassis builds is I always figure out where the first thing I want to do is figure out where my battery is going to go. So the first thing that I do on my YD2, this one here, is the reason I decide where to put my battery first is because this one has three different placements for the battery, right? You can put the battery here, you can put the battery here, or you can turn it like how I have mine and put the battery this way, right? On the D5, this one here, there's only one placement for the battery, which is back here, going long ways, right? So there's no option for the D5. But if you have YD2, you have that option. That's why I always, depends on the chassis, I figure out where the battery is going to go. And then from there, I can figure out my placements of my receivers, my gyros, and my ESC, right? So if you are new to this, what you need to start building a YD2 or to get it, or sorry, to get your drift chassis, not a YD2, anything could be a just Sakura D5, Sakura D4 if you, that's all you can get. Don't get the D4. Or a Yokomo, or even like a Galm, Overdose Galm. There's quite a few chassis out there, right? The things you need just to get going is you need a motor, you need an ESC, and you need a gyro, and then obviously you need your receiver, which is for your remote, right? You see I run my Futaba, so that's what you need. So I'm just gonna put that here for now. So after you get your electronics, you figure out where you're gonna put your battery, right? You have to pretty much figure out where you're gonna put everything, like placement wise. So I'm just gonna show you my D5 here, and my YD2 over. So my D5 here, right? Obviously your servo goes here. There's only one option for the D5 at this moment, right? I put my receiver and my gyro, as you can see, right there. There's my receiver. There's my gyro, right? So it's middle of the chassis. I put my ESC in the rear, just in front of the rear axles, right? You can see, so this will be considered mid rear ESC. And then my motor, well, there's only one option on the D5, and that's in the rear. So this is an R, right? R, rear, RR, right? You can get an MST RMX, you can get the RRX, which is because the motor is in the rear. That's how you define the chassis, right? So you got RMX, which is rear mid, which is in this area here, right? And then rear, which is this area here. Okay, just so if anybody was wondering why they're called that. So yeah, so that's how I set up on my D5. On my YD2, my electronics are based on all the 3M tapes coming off on this guy. It's getting unstuck. I have my ESC in the rear, as you can see. And then my motor is still in the mid-rear, which is when you get a YD2S Plus, this is where it comes. Or if you get a YD2S, any S chassis, it's a high motor mount, and it comes in the mid-rear, right? Middle, rear. Right? My steering servo, I have the slide rack, so this is the only option for the slide rack, but the YD2 has other options, which is the normal way, which is it just sits in front here. Very bad systems for servos on the YD2s, in my opinion. They're not very easy to maintain or operate on, that's why. So after you figure out where you're putting your electronics, like I have mine here, you need to solder cables, which is always tedious if you're new to soldering, right? Some of them, like this ESC that I got here, came with the cables already connected, or not connected. It came with the ABC which is orange, yellow, blue for me on this ESC. They already came soldered on. The only thing I had to solder on was the batteries, which is the red and the black for positive and negative. As you can see there, most ESCs will have all ESCs come the same, which is ABC, positive, negative, and then a sensor cable. Which you do need a sensor cable when you're running brushless, especially for drift cars. Okay, I don't know anything about touring cars and stuff like that, so I don't know, but for drift cars, you need a sensor cable, or else the ESC won't know when the motor is overheated, or when it's when you need boost if you're running boost. But I'm not here to talk about boost. This is just to get you running. So yeah, so you need to get your cables, figure out where you're gonna put your ESC, cut the cables according to length, right, 2 sides, and then solder them on. There's a bunch of soldering videos out there on YouTube you guys can look up, so I'm not gonna show you guys how to solder because I'm not the best at it. Right, this is the best I could do with the amount of stuff I could. And this was done, this is done about 4 years ago, right? So as you can see, I'm still new at it, or when I did this 4 years ago, I was new at it. I was only 2 years into the hobby, and this is only my second ESC that I soldered, or third ESC. My first ESC that I soldered was this guy. As you can see, that's learning how to solder. That's what that looks like. And this is what it looks like now. This one was soldered. This is the D5, so I just soldered this one on. As you can see, much improvement because I've gotten better. Now that I think about it, I might just desolder these ones and just fix them up. Now that I'm better at it. But enough of that. Yeah, so after you solder that, you need to figure out your cable lengths. Remember, some cables are always come black, like this one here. It's all black. Right, I just put a little tab here to let me know which one's positive, which was negative. Or on this one here, I had red cable, so I soldered the red cable, so I know that's my positive, and I know the black one's my negative for my batteries. And yes, I run bullet connectors, so it goes straight into my battery. It is an option; you don't have to. Right? You could run Deans like this one here. Let's see if I can disconnect. Yeah, see, so Deans, because some of these come already connected to the battery. Right? So they don't have the bullets like these, which is if you have batteries these are already inside, you can't take them out. Just use a Deans like this one here. Right? Just put a Deans. Works just fine. I like to run the bullets because I know I'm getting consistent power when I need it. I know it's there, so I know it's never going to run out. That's why I do that. So that's pretty much just the basics of, figuring out where to put your electronics. The other thing you got to do is, after you get your electronics all soldered on and you give everything power, you have to connect everything, obviously, right? And the one thing you need to do is your gyro. If you get a gyro that has the 3 cables like this, is what I recommend you get. It gives you can control it through your remote, through channel 3 or channel 4, depending on how many channels your receiver has, right? This has 4 channels. So channel 1 would be my ESC, channel 2 would be my servo, and then channel 3 or 4, I could plug in the one to control my servo. So this one here would come from my servo, right? So my servo would plug into this guy. This one here, I would plug into channel 2 so I can control it, all right, left and right. And this one here will go to my channel 3 or 4, so I can control the gain on the gyro, right? So the gain is pretty much, if you have it 100% gain and you're driving straight, the servo is going to wobble like this. So you need to turn it down to like 50%, 60%, depending on your setup, depending on your tune, right? And then it won't wobble. So that's, you want to get it to the point where it doesn't wobble, but if you turn up a little bit, it will wobble. And then that's where you want to start at. Start at that, and then from there you can fine tune to less or just a little more, right? It all depends, right? Like, it really does depend. Like on this chassis, I run it at, when I checked, it was at 43. And on this guy, it's at 55, I believe. Yeah, 55. So 2 different cars, 2 different gyro gains, 2 different setups. All right, so I hope that helps with how to wire in your gyro. So the other thing you got to do is you need to figure out, sorry, after you plug everything in, you need to calibrate your ESC. So the way to calibrate ESCs is it's not, I guess, technical. It can be, But so it depends on the ESC, right? But it's pretty much a standard procedure for if you have a Yokomo one or a Hobbywing one like I have here, or an OMG one here. This is an old OMG, so you probably won't have this one. But this one here, this little white button or light clear button, you have to push that in after you plug in the battery. Push that in, turn it on, and then this thing would flash. So what you do when it flashes is you go full throttle on the remote like this, and then you push the button on your ESC. Then it'll flash again. You go reverse, you push the button, let go, and then in neutral you push the button, let go. So it'll be the same thing for my Hobbywing. It's the same thing on this one. It's the same thing. This one, except this one, the on and off switch is the main one. So you just push that in, let go. You put full throttle, push that button, you let go. Full reverse, push the button, let go. Push the button neutral, and you should be good. The Yokomo ones. This is a BL. Yeah, this is a BL Pro 4. Oh, so much dirt. I haven't used these in so long. Should clean it up a bit. The BL Pro 4 is the same thing, or not, it's pretty much the same. So see this little black little button that's there? You push that in, hold it, and then at the same time you turn it on. So you gotta push, turn it on. Then this is gonna start flashing. What that happens is you're in program mode. So it starts to flash. So you go full throttle, it'll blink, let go. Backwards, it'll blink, let go. Neutral, it'll blink, and then you're good to go. You should have forward, brake, reverse. You should. If you only have forward brake, that means you have to program it to give it reverse, which I will show you in a bit how to do that. But yeah, so I hope that helps. I hope this helps you guys, whoever's watching, helps you to set that up. I hope you guys enjoy that. So let me get a program card now. Okay, all right, I hope this is a little better. Using my phone now, not my GoPro. So again, this is just to get you going, and it's the same functions pretty much for every program box or even the Wi-Fi module. This is just to get you going. It'll always be the same, pretty much the same sequences. So this one here, it'll tell you program 1, forward only with brake, 2, forward reverse with brake, and then forward reverse. All that's saying is that if you want only forward, so when you hit full throttle, let me get my remote. When you want full throttle and you let go, you just want brake. There's no reverse. When you go backwards at this, there's no reverse. Okay, that's all that's saying. If you do want forward, brake, and reverse, that means you're gonna get, bring my remote again, you're gonna get forward. When you go back, you're gonna get brake. And if you want reverse, you let go of brake, and you hit brake again, then it'll go into reverse. That's all that's saying, right? And then if you go to forward and reverse, all it's saying is that, get back my remote, you're going forward, reverse, forward, reverse. And if you're drifting, don't do forward, reverse. The only functions you want when you're drifting is going to be number 2, forward, reverse with brake, or number 1, forward only with brake. If you're doing a competition, I recommend you only do forward only with brake. Don't do reverse. Because some ESCs, if you hold the brake for too long, it'll automatically go into reverse mode. So you gotta watch out for that. Drag brake pretty much means when you let go of the throttle and you go into neutral. When you let go of the throttle, pretty much, is how fast is the car gonna stop itself. So if you put it at 100%, it'll stop like as if you're hitting brake. Right? So that's totally up to you. What I run, if you're wondering what I do, is I run mine at 10%. So when I let go of brake, my car still rolls. Because when I'm drifting, sometimes I just want to go to throttle so the car will coast, and then I'm back on throttle. I don't want it to e-brake on its own, right? If I want e-brake, I hit brake. Cutoff threshold, that's for your LiPo protection. Standard is always 3.2. I recommend going higher, 3.8, even 4, but it's totally up to you. Start mode on this OMG ESC, I don't know what that means, so I've always left it at 1, and it's always seemed to work fine. Brake force, that means when you hit the brake, how much force of brake do you want? For me, for drifting, I hit it at 50%. When I'm doing competitions, I hit it at 100%, because when I brake, I want that brake to kick in, right? Reverse force is how much reverse force you want, so pretty much like going forward. If you're going forward and you hit full throttle, you want 100%, so the same thing for reverse. You don't want to go
100% when you hit reverse. If you go in reverse, you're just trying to get out of something. Maybe you're stuck on something. So I would go like 25%, even 50%. I run mine at 25% just to slowly get me out. Servo my finger there. Initial brake force, I leave that at 0. I'm not too sure why they have the initial brake force there when you have brake force down at the bottom there. I'm not too sure. Neutral range is always what it comes at 6%. It's always standard, so I wouldn't adjust that, to be honest. Because what that means, if you want neutral range, is I'll bring my remote here. Is right now, see where the stick is, where the joystick is. That's neutral range. If you change the neutral range to bigger, that means when I'm on throttle, when I'm holding it now, if I move it here, this is neutral as well. So all this here is neutral. So that means every time you're in this area, there's going to be no response in your remote to your car. So you don't want that. So leave it like standard where it is. Don't move it, because then, like I said, if you want to hit throttle and you move here, there's going to be no throttle because you're still in neutral range. And now when you go further, now you're in throttle, right? But you don't want that. Well, maybe you do. I recommend you don't. And then the other one is overheat protection. You always want that enabled. That means if your motor gets too hot, your ECU gets too hot, it'll just shut off, which is good. Motor rotation counterclockwise or clockwise. That means if you're going full throttle and the motor's going reverse, just change it, right? And then it'll go the other way, which is perfectly fine. And then LiPo cells, which should be set to auto, or if you're running 2S, and just put it on 2S. But for drift cars, you never go more than 2S for drift cars, guys. Don't try to go 3S or 4S on a drift car unless you're running like an 1/8 scale drift car. Running 1/10 scale, keep it at 2S.
So I hope this video gives you guys a quick idea, or a little short idea of how mine are set up. Oh, the other thing, I guess I should show this now, is my pinion. So most pinions, you don't want to make it too tight, but you don't want to make it too loose. So all you want to see the little play I have here. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus. Oh, see that little bit of play I have? That's like perfect right there. See that? That is all you need. If you're any tighter than that, when you're driving, you're gonna hear like it's gonna sound like you're in boost all the time, pretty much. Like it's gonna sound like a hard squeaking sound. Then it's too tight. Then you want to loosen it, but don't loosen it too much, because then you'll just end up stripping your spur gear, right? As you can see, my spur gear is nice. It's just dirty. Oh, too close. Yeah, there you go. See, you can see the teeth are in good shape. All right, and there's my pinion there. All right, so I can move it here. Yeah, see, so there you go. See, that's how much play I have. And that's perfect. Pinion gears, stock white 82s come with 20s, but it's totally up to you what you want to use, depending on the ratio of your car, on your motor, sorry. This is a 10.5, so it's up to you. This one's a 13.5, so more torquey, less top end speed. Less torquey, but more top end speed. So yeah, it's really your preference, but it's all done with the gearing. That's a different setup. Different setup as well. But just do whatever in the kit. It'll come with a spare gear, so shouldn't have to worry. All right, guys. Hope this video helps, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.